Hello. Well, welcome back to Ball and All. This is our fourth episode. First episode with the iconic, the one and only Jake Vedder. Welcome back, Jake.
How's it going, everyone? Or should I say, how is it going?
How's it going, Jake? How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. I don't know if I should provide the
I
necessary
was just gonna say before we get into
the necessary context for that nickname.
before we get into
Oh, wait, let me use
all right,
the
how do I do
mobile
the
hotspot
Wi-Fi
on my
on this?
phone.
Oh, you have to use the hotspot.
I forgot about that. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
Okay.
While you're pulling that up, we'll tell them the
Go-
story.
All right, so go to the Wi-Fi up there.
Up here.
Yeah, there should be Verizon, that one.
Okay. So sorry about that. We just had to connect to Wi-Fi really quick.
All right, so
Anyway, Jake, now that we're connected to the internet, you want to tell them where Jake Vedder comes from?
yeah, let's do it.
While I pull up, you can tell that while I pull up the score from last night's.
So last night, Pete and I decided to go to the Mohansic Golf Course and Bar in Yorktown to support our friend Joe. He was having an open mic night. He is a very talented guitarist.
Very, very talented.
And
shout out Joe. We're gonna get him on one of these episodes too.
Yeah, be more music themed, which is
it'll
perfectly
be
fine
more
by me.
Music than sport theme, but we'll get him on an episode.
Yeah, because we're all three of us were huge fans of classic rock, so that's a pretty easy thing. But so the first thing, and at the time only thing, was he was doing a country song. And as great as that is, they do prefer you to fill a second slot. Usually it's about 2 to 3 songs. So Pete actually suggested Black by Pearl Jam, a great song from a great album. I mean, 10 is ironically top 10 rock albums of all time.
Yes.
And which is, by the way, I'm considering for my honors thesis project doing creating a fake English class, the analysis of classic rock, and that would go on there. That song,
that would be amazing.
Black, and probably Jeremy too. They have a lot of sad but good songs on that album. But anyway,
you wanna finish the explanation, or you wanna?
Sure. So Joe and I performed that song. He did guitar. I did lead vocals for Black with a patron named Russ, a very nice guy. Shout out to Russ. Deciding to do backing vocals. And, it was a little shaky at first, especially given my nerves and the fact that, as some of you might be able to tell, I'm getting over a cold. But, once I got into it, I think it went pretty well. Pete, he was happily recording, so he maybe wants to comment on that as well.
Oh, it was amazing to see. It was great. It was great. I loved it. He did phenomenal.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
He did phenomenal.
Yeah,
anyone looking at the title, the whole purpose of calling him Jake Vedder is because I told him on stage I was gonna yell it and I didn't, but
I think it's better that you did it. Probably would have ruined the flow.
But it was great. So I told him it was a joke that I'm putting the title of that as this week's episode.
I love that title. I also love the name of the show, Ball and All. That's great.
Yeah, I put the all part in there. I'll tell you what. So this way, if we talk about stuff that's not sports related, it still fits within the title of the show. This way, it's not like just strictly sports now. So you can add a little different of an element. Or if we go like somewhere different, there's still like it's in the title.
Right. Yeah. I forgot what it was like last semester.
Honestly, I forgot too.
But it was something more sports oriented.
Yeah,
I think the title is, which is of course nothing wrong.
Now going into sports.
Yes.
We're gonna pull up because it's the first game I saw. We'll pull up the Giants first.
Okay. Finally beat the Eagles.
Which at home in MetLife.
Yeah, so I always like to say,
home
field advantage plays somewhat of a factor, not for Wednesday night, but which we'll get into it a little bit. We'll get to Wednesday night a little bit. Yep. But yeah, so I obviously wasn't able to watch. I caught snippets at the bar last night. But
same, we caught snippets.
But something I noticed, I think I've read something that Dart was the second rookie quarterback in the Giants to beat the Eagles. I think that's correct.
Yeah, I believe so.
He and
speaking of Dart, he actually played it pretty well. 195 yards, 1 touchdown. I feel like they're giving him a game plan, just make it very bread and butter. Just hit the open guys. So he's not gonna have high number like stat totals yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think you're gonna see him throw for 300 yards yet, but I think you're gonna see there's the potential there. Cam Scatterbo is looking like one of the best power running backs in the league.
Sure. I think he got 3 touchdowns.
Yeah,
Last
3
night,
touchdowns. Of course, because I'm playing him in fantasy this week. Now I'm in an 18-0 hole. That's great. It's gonna be great to come out of that. Anyway, the Giants' defense has been playing a lot better the last few games as well. Against the Chargers, forcing Justin Herbert, who before that game was one of the most accurate, was having one of the best accuracy-wise 3-game stretch in the league. Forcing to have multiple turnovers. They're sacking the quarterback a lot more. Brian Burns is up to 7 sacks on the season now. You're starting to see more production from first-round pick Abdul Carter. Shout out Penn State. You're seeing more production from him and Thibodeau off the edge and at hybrid linebackers. And you're just they're starting to play. They're starting to play better than what their record shows mostly. I mean, the New Orleans game was an atrocious game last Sunday. We'll talk about that game too because that was last Sunday. That was a atrocious game, but that was as bad as that game was. Again, you saw in the early stages of the game before it fell off the rails, they looked pretty well. They're up 14-0 early.
Right, gaining a little discipline.
Yeah, and then his Jackson Darts debut, he played great. So
right. No, he's got potential. He's still young, so we'll have to see what the future holds with him. But I do like his prospects. And now with yesterday, I believe the Giants are 2-4 now.
Yeah, they're 2-4.
So,
they're not. I don't think they're going to qualify for the playoffs, but I think they're going to have a good. They're going to finish with maybe like 6 wins. Now I feel like Dart's obviously way better than having Russ or Jameis back there at quarterback. I mean, Jameis Winston's not bad, but I think Dart's going to outplay both of them. Wan'Dale Robinson had a great game for the Giants, 84 yards and a touchdown. Now, look at the Eagles. Despite the loss, Jalen Hurts threw for 283 yards. I don't know if anyone saw. They did a sequence, 4 straight tush pushes. That play is going to get banned. Let's talk about it. That's going to get banned. I saw angles and clips this morning all over social media. Both guards are moving off sides way too early before the snap. So I feel like once the NFL catches on to that, they're going to start penalizing it, and then they're going to ban the play.
Right. No, they probably will. They do crack down on stuff like that.
Yeah, especially if they're going to if the guards are moving off sides all the time, you got to ban the play. Look, I'm trying to think what to say about the Eagles. I feel like I was talking to my father this morning. Shout out, Dad. He was saying there's no real dominant team right now, and I kind of I got to agree with that. I'm like, there's no one. I got to agree with him saying that because I'm like, there's nobody, that's running away with the league. Kansas City's 2-3 for this game. Baltimore's 1-4, but they're hurt. Cincinnati has no quarterback.
How are the Bills doing?
Bills are 4-1, but they lost to New England, who they should have dominated.
Right.
New England's decent. They're not good. I mean, they have good flashes, but they're not like the best. I'm trying to think of other contenders from last year. I mean, the Chargers were dominant the first 3 weeks, and the last 2 weeks they looked terrible. The Rams aren't dominant. There really isn't a dominant team. I feel like this year the league is wide open in terms of playoffs and Super Bowl. I feel like you'll be able to find like a team, like a sleeper team. Someone like I guess maybe the Giants could sneak in a wild card if they start racking up wins and don't lose many more games. Tampa Bay looked kind of dominant, but they're 4-0. They might be, honestly, if you had to pick one, like forcefully pick one, I would maybe say Tampa Bay. 4-0. The way they're winning games is insane. A lot of fourth quarter. They're having a lot of fourth quarter comebacks. They had the one against the Jets. Jake witnessed that one live. That's why we're laughing. He witnessed.
I did. Yeah. It's rhetoric that cannot be repeated over here.
He witnessed that one live, and we'll just end it there. But yeah, he saw the live reactions to that loss. That was one of the defense just.
Yeah, the Jets are now what 0-5.
Yeah, they're 0-5.
And I wasn't saying that to make him feel worse. I'm just regurgitating.
No, I was gonna go into the Jets anyway. That's why I brought up the Bucs and the Jet game. I'm not gonna go on a rant like I did last week because it's the same rant every week. But I will say, being 0-5 your season's basically cooked at this point. You're done at 0-5.
Right, because it's like a month in now.
You're a month in. You're 0-5. You're gonna have to win like 8 in a row to even be in a playoff contention. Starting now, you have to win 8 straight, even maybe 9. You're gonna be like 9. You can't really lose any more games to go for a playoff contender. When you look at the way it is, you really can't. With that being said, they'll probably go like 0-12. Jets luck. Just gonna say this. They'll go 0-12, win 3 games at the end of the year, and wind up picking 3rd instead of 1st when they were number 1 all year.
Yeah, I still always think of that clip from that movie.
It's the same. It's like, but in all seriousness, playing Denver in London, that could maybe be a game they steal. I know, Denver hasn't looked the best compared to how they looked last year. I don't know how well they're going to play, but, it's all like there are maybe a couple of games they could steal, but I don't see them at this point now winning more than 3 games. Sorry, what were you saying? You were saying something.
No, I always think of that clip, like from the Pete Davidson movie, King of Staten Island, where he's arguing with Bill Burr, and he's Pete Davidson's like, "You put money on the Jets," and he's like, "This is gonna be our year." But of course, Bill Burr is also a New England fan, so I think he probably put that heart into that scene and that script. I assume he wrote some of that movie. But yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna just tell you, Coco Diaz, Don Romano, just texted me, "Let's go Giants." I had to throw in Coco Diaz for that one.
Yeah, some of his snaps to me yesterday were Giants of the game. You know, whereas mine was
shout out Coco Diaz.
Dominator.
He said he loves us. We love you too, Dom.
I love Dom. He's the best.
Well, now
I was actually listening to his song "Cult of Personality." Well, one of his 2 songs in the car.
I'm gonna pull up the Jet game from last week. We'll just go over the actual game itself, just because
the one that was on Sunday.
Sunday, we'll go over Sunday's game. Where was it? Dallas. Can I get the box? Where's the box score? Hold on. Okay, here we go. So last Sunday, the Jets played the Cowboys at MetLife. They lost 37-22. Sorry. Currently they're 0-3 at home. It's another game. They get the ball. They start off slow. They kick a field goal. They go up 3-0. Dallas ties the game. And then after Dallas ties the game, the wheels fall off. You go down 10-3. You're down at some point. You're down 30-6. You're down 30-6 at one point. That there was the Dallas's offense is high powered. So I was expecting, Dallas to put up points. I wasn't expecting us to shut down Dallas's offense. But at the same time, their defense has been one of the worst. They're giving up 30 points a game almost every game. To put up 22 and most of that be garbage time is not, this game should have been a shootout. It was basically a blowout until Dallas, the end of the game, till the 4th quarter when Dallas stopped playing on defense. It almost looked like. I wanted to highlight Justin Fields, though. I'm not going to say another great game, but played decently well, 283 yards. Breece Hall had 113 on the ground. Garrett Wilson had 71 through the air with a touchdown. Like I said, the offense doesn't play horribly. I feel like some of their points come late in games, but statistically, their offense hasn't really looked that bad yet. I feel like the only game where the offense was really bad was Buffalo, but that was 3 weeks ago. The key for us, or not for us, for the Jets is, if the defense plays well, I feel like they could win. They would be, I think, 3-2. The defense played well. I think you would have won week 1.
Week 1, not to interrupt, but the first game, I think they were leading by a good bit going into halftime, right?
Yeah, they were. They were up 17. I forgot if it was 17.
19 something.
Or 19, yeah. And then, before Xavier Gibson fumbles, you were winning. If that doesn't happen and the defense plays well, that's 1 win. I feel like the Tampa Bay game, even though, you were down, if they get 1 stop that game, you win that game. Buffalo was a the way Buffalo's defense was playing, you weren't going to win that game. You could just tell. You could just tell from the beginning that game was done when you were down 10-0 early. But I feel like that. Then you had the Miami game. That was a defense game, but also if Braylon Allen doesn't fumble first drive on the goal line, and he scores that touchdown, and then the game goes exactly how it did the rest of the day, the Jets win that game too. So that's 3 wins right there. And then Dallas, I don't know. I feel like if the defense played well, they probably could have. They probably still would have lost to Dallas because Dallas's offense is so potent right now, and they're running the ball great. They're throwing the ball great. I hate giving Dallas props, but I have to. They're running the ball great. They're throwing the ball great. Their defense is just one of the worst in the league without Micah Parsons, and it shows. Jerry Jones shouldn't have been stubborn. He should have just paid him what he's worth. I'd rather have paid him what he's worth than traded him within the conference. That's really all I had to say for the Jets. I don't want to get too lost on them. I don't want to go into too much of a rant, but
as much as I enjoy it.
As much as we enjoy it. When we come back, we're gonna go to baseball and shout out. We have a little shout out. Jake wants to give a shout out to something. So we'll be right back with an ad break.
This is WIUR Radio.
Hi, I'm Morgan Beastie from the Ionian, and I hope you're enjoying today's show. Are you looking for the latest scoop on campus news, sports, and more? Check out the Ionian University's very own award-winning student newspaper. We keep you up to date with everything happening on and off campus. Want to know about the big game, the latest campus event? It's all in the Ionian. Join the conversation. Read, write, and get involved. Visit www.theionian.org or pick up a copy around campus. Stay informed, stay connected. Now, back to WIUR, Iona University Radio.
Okay. Now, there was a reason here. I used that specific ad. And Jake, do you want to?
Yeah, let's do it.
You could do the full paper, by the way. You can shout out both articles if you want.
Okay.
Just do it all.
So, as Pete mentioned, the primary reason for using this was the Ionian here. This is our student-run newspaper. I'm the arts and entertainment editor. Of course, sometimes I do dip into other sections.
He wrote a couple weeks ago. He wrote a really, really good Yankee article.
Yes.
I think it was the first
right.
issue. Yeah, I cracked my hand on the desk. I think it was the first issue, if I'm not mistaken.
It was the second.
Second issue. He wrote about the Yankees 9/11 game.
Yeah, 9/11 game and that weekend. The 9/11 game was great. We had a 9-3 victory, I believe. It was historic in other ways too. For the first time in 24 years, a president showed up. Pretty cool.
Sitting U.S. president.
Yep.
Because I think there's definitely been presidents that have gone that weren't in office.
Yeah,
so
I think Bush Senior might have gone, but first sitting. So
yeah, I would say first sitting since.
And so also too, that weekend we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Oh yeah,
that weekend we won the series against Boston, which obviously for us is very big. And I was also writing about at the time what a hot streak Judge was on. Judge at the time tied, and then that weekend, and then surpassed Joe DiMaggio in career home runs because DiMaggio had 361, I believe. So Judge surpassed that. So that was pretty cool. It was a good weekend because as for any recurring viewers would know, or at least from Pete's previous podcast, the Yankees are my favorite team. So they were the one that I was most passionate about. Hence my first entrance into the sports section, and with that I also wrote in every section. But speaking of sports sections and baseball, kind of funny, the Giants Giants dropped to 1-4. That was before
written
before yesterday.
So some of the newspaper, like my article was was written around when the Mets were still alive in the postseason, but because the newspaper comes out every other week, it was published after they were eliminated. This was written during, I believe, when we were playing Chicago, or right before we went to that Cubs series when we were still mathematically alive and able to clinch. So, but if you want to highlight it, you don't have to read the whole article. You can just highlight what it's about.
Yeah. So, so Pete wrote an article on their pitcher Nolan McLean. No relation to New Rochelle's Don. Excuse me, Don. I was thinking of Dom earlier.
Don McLean.
Yeah, but yeah. So, I mean, do you want to talk more about it, Pete? Because it's your team and
I'll fill it.
You wrote it.
I'll talk about it. Yeah. So I wrote an article. The article was about. It was like kind of a sports piece, kind of an opinionated piece. It was like a hybrid of how I think and how a lot of the media also thinks the Mets found the next ace in a lineage of aces, franchise aces, such as Jacob deGrom, Doc Gooden, and Tom Seaver and Nolan McLean. Considering when you look at the number he put up in his first, I want to say his first month and a half. I don't remember exactly how many games he started, but having a sub-2 ERA after coming up at the end of July, early August, having a below 2 earned run average, as well as going 5-1 or 4-1 in his starts, and even his one loss was a one-run defeat to Phillies. I wrote about how that performance at the end of the year really helped the Mets stay afloat while their whole rotation. Everybody knows their rotation was arguably one of the worst in baseball in terms of ERA and a bunch of other stats. It was one of the worst in baseball. You had guys like Kodai Senga who had a 1.4 ERA before getting hurt, come back, and his ERA skyrocketed to well over 7. Sean Manaea wasn't himself. I don't know if he was injured or if he regressed back to how he was before he came to the Mets, where he always had high ERAs. Peterson, held down the fort most of the year. He ran out of steam, didn't look great at the end. So I feel like I wrote how I feel like having Nolan McLean come up helped jumpstart the Mets a little bit, and kept them alive because the starts he was giving you gave you the best chances to win a game. And I feel like it is next ace the next ace coming up in the franchise. I don't want to go as far as say it, but it could be they might have found the next, replacement for Jacob deGrom as one of the top pitchers in baseball in the future.
Yeah, I mean, that's just something where I always like to say, wait and see. I mean, obviously, I'm not a Mets fan, but it's always fun to take a look at the prospects, be like, oh, let's see what happens with this. There's potential there, stuff like that. Kind of what I was saying earlier about Dart, But yeah.
All right, you want to anything else you want to add about the paper? You can shout out your articles. You want to shout out yours?
I do want to talk about mine. I wasn't sure if we should do that.
No, we can do it now while we're talking about the paper, and then we'll go back to the.
All right. So there's a half completed word search there. So I have 3 articles in the paper, and one of them I'll get to shout out one of our good friends. So I always love when we do that. So my first review was for the recent Leonardo DiCaprio thriller, One Battle After Another, which I thought was a phenomenal movie. I definitely think it's going to be nominated for Oscars, possibly even Best Picture. DiCaprio, has to be. I think I forget if he won for The Revenant, but he's kind of one of those actors where it's crucially under-nominated. And Sean Penn, again, he's got to get Best Supporting Actor. He was awesome in this movie, a very intimidating villain, a little perverse at times, but he was very, very creepy. And yeah, it just kept you on the edge of your seat the whole time. And it's kind of like a big deal, almost like in cinema when a new Leonardo DiCaprio movie comes out. I want to say the last major one was about 2 years ago, the one he did with Robert De Niro, Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese, which there actually is a documentary on Scorsese coming out next week. I'm looking forward to watching that. But
is that going to get an article?
It might, or I might do an overarching article on documentaries of recently, because I did. There's one on Charlie Sheen that I watched recently, which was interesting. And John Candy, I think there's one of him that comes out today. In fact,
He's a great actor.
Rest in peace. He was awesome. But let me just quickly go over my next two articles. So kind of appropriate that I'm wearing the shirt. I didn't even intend that. The next article I wrote was for a Halloween favorite section, which for anyone watching, if you want to submit an article on your favorite slasher movie, horror movie, or just Halloween themed movie, you can do that for Halloween favorites for our next and final October issue, which is 2 weeks from yesterday, October 23rd, I believe. I did it on Scream, which there's so much I could go into on Scream. In fact, the article that I initially wrote was about 650 words. I had to shorten it down. It was to make it for the 500 limit because it's just an amazing movie. My second favorite horror movie, Pete's favorite. It's I really love the meta aspect to it. Where it's self-referential. I've said before, the opening scene in that movie is probably my favorite in cinema history.
The opening scene, in terms of horror movies, is probably the best opening kill I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's just and then you have to. Everyone knows it by now, but you have to.
I have Coco Diaz over here texting me nonstop. He just wrote my favorite horror movie too.
I can't.
He also has a question which we will answer in a little while.
Okay, so yeah, with the opening scene, you don't really think of it now because everyone knows the scene. But back at the time, Drew Barrymore, she was more up and coming. She was top billing for the movie, literally on the poster. No one thought she was gonna get killed in the opening scene, but she did. And again, great suspense, great tension. I want to know who I'm looking at. What'd you say? I want to know who I'm talking to. That's not what you said. Pete, I could
great.
Almost the whole movie.
Yeah, we could go about 90%.
Yeah, and again, I'm just like previewing what I said in the article here to give kind of like a Cliff Notes thing. You have Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott, who, no disrespect to Laurie Strode, but Sidney's my favorite final girl in horror history. She's, I can't say that. She's kick butt.
Yeah.
I was going to say something else, but I know no profanity, even if minimal. So that's just great. You have Randy, who I'm still upset they killed off in Scream 2. But you have Randy, who gives all the rules to surviving a horror movie. I like to say it like that.
You have to say it like him.
Yeah. Don't say I'll be right back. Don't drink. Don't do premarital stuff. Also too, just as much as I love Sidney, acting wise, the MVP of the movie might even be Courtney Cox as Gail. She's really good. Like, Kenny, when I tell you to move it, that means you move your tub of lard blank. It's just she's awesome. David Arquette as Dewey Dewdrop, everyone's favorite. Just so many great performances. An awesome acted movie. I've also been Ghostface for several Halloweens because what I find scarier about Ghostface as opposed to other horror or even slasher movies is that it could happen. It's very realistic because it's a human being in a costume. It's not like Michael or Jason, who, as great as they are, they're not immortal. An immortal slasher isn't going to come messing around. But yeah, the third act in Stu Macher's house, great. Pete and I constantly quote some of Matthew Lillard's quotes. I don't know if
you want to do it first. I know you want to do it.
All right, so
I know which one you want to do too.
I'll do one because there's so many you can do, and then Pete can do another one. Let's face it, Sidney, your mother was no Sharon Stone.
I thought you were gonna, I guess I'm doing it. I'm feeling woozy here. I thought that was the one you were gonna go with.
Hit me with the phone.
Speaking of Scream, really quick before we pivot to the third article.
Yes,
I forgot my stickers in your car from the movie theater.
I actually was thinking that. So
we went to go see it.
Well, the good news is actually I parked in the Murphy lot.
So. Yes, I'm gonna grab them for you. So what we're talking about is last Friday night we went to see Scream in the movie theaters. They were doing a special showing of the movie for Halloween, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So me and him and a couple of our other friends went to go see it, and they gave out free sticker sheets. They've been in the back of Jake's car for about a week.
Literally a week. But
about a week, and I keep forgetting to get them. I've seen them almost every day this week too.
But yeah, it's seeing that in the theaters with the packed audience, especially if packed because the theater itself wasn't very big, really added to the experience. And the guy, the guy who was proctoring it, if you will, who gave a little speech beforehand, Josh, I know all the workers at Alamo because I'm a
That's
frequent
great.
flyer there, and they know me. It's like a family there, really.
Yeah.
He was saying, and honestly, it's true that it's one of the few horror movies that still kind of unsettles you. I mean, you can't say when you watch that first scene, no matter how many times you see it, you're not a little creeped out. Or certain scenes in the movie. And as much as I love the franchise, like I really enjoy all the sequels, it's something that really none of the sequels have captured that first movie has. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's again an awesome movie overall. 10 out of 10. Yeah. I don't know if you have anything else to add with Scream.
No.
All right. So I know Dom said he had a question. Is that related to Scream or no?
No, it's actually related to what we were talking about beforehand. But
All right, so then
you
let
could
me-
do the Wizard of Oz, and then I'll rope us back in.
So this last article is, a good. I like to involve my friends if possible with my articles, and that is an interview with the one and only Tyler P. Gill on his involvement in the Iona Players' upcoming rendition of The Wizard of Oz. And yeah, it was just, it's kind of hard to summarize an interview, but he just talked about at one point a funny moment where he was supposed to be on stage, but he was in the audience and they're like, Tyler, get up here. And someone joked to him, you're fired. He talked about what the movie meant to him. I mean, I'm not, an actor or a playwright myself. I never got too much of that theater bug, but The Wizard of Oz is still a great movie. I loved it when I was a kid. Very creative, especially for the time and the, color technology that they used, which isn't always something I found a little bit weird. They had a color movie in 1939. They were able to use some of that tech, but color movies didn't start becoming a thing till like the 60s. But anyway, I know there's probably a reason for it, but I just found it kind of ironic. But yeah, so guys, just show up next weekend, support your fellow Gales, and yeah, it'll be fun. All right. Do I have to talk about that?
No, I just pulled it up.
I can
just
if you want.
No. I just.
It's a funny story.
It is a funny story, but I just saw it on the desktop. I thought it'd be funny to pull up just to see your reaction because you were so serious.
I was locked in.
Okay, now I'm gonna rope us back into sports here. Shout out Coco Diaz for the question. So Coco wants to ask, do you think the Micah Parsons trade benefited or hurt the defense of Dallas? And I think it hurt the defense mightily because, like I said earlier, and I kind of answered this question earlier, so I don't know if you heard it or not. But like I said this earlier, and I'll say it again. With Dallas's defense, you could see clearly they're missing something in trading Micah Parsons. Now, Kenny Clark is a good player, but you could clearly see they're missing something with trading Micah Parsons. So, when you look at, they gave up 30 points. They're giving up almost 40 points a game outside of the Jet game. Now, I know I forgot, I think they were 3-1 or 2-1. But even before the Jet game, they were 1-2-1. And even in that one win, they gave up almost 30 points or over almost 40 points. They had a shootout with the Giants where they gave up 37. They tied at 40 with Green Bay because Green Bay kicked a last-second field goal. So you could tell their defense isn't that good without Micah Parsons was a missing link on that defense. I hope that answers your question, Coco.
I think it answers Coco.
I can't take calling him Coco seriously. This is one of the greatest inside jokes we've ever had. I can't do it. Now, I want to go to baseball.
Yay.
We're gonna talk about the ALDS in a serious sense.
It'll start off serious.
From game one, I had a feeling. Now, I didn't count the Yankees out, and I did think that they could pull it off. But from game one, even before the game started, I felt like Toronto was gonna win. They had home. I think I started feeling that way because they had home field for the first two games. All right, they were at home for game one, game two, and if the series went to 5, they would have had the home field in game 5. And Jake said it earlier. In all seriousness, home field advantage. And now I mess with Jake and say no, it doesn't. In all seriousness, home field advantage plays a huge part in.
Sure. You're in your environment,
So I thought they were going to split it. I didn't think it was going to be a 4-game series. I thought Toronto was going to win the first 2 in Toronto. The Yankees were going to come back, especially after game 3, the way the Yankees came back in game 3. Ooh, I really thought they were going to win game 4 and send it to game 5. I didn't count. Then I started thinking maybe the Yankees are going to pull it off a 3-game comeback. You wanna? I'll
Yeah,
let you because
so-
I didn't really watch Game 3.
Yeah.
Much. So if you want, you can talk about Game 3.
So, so yeah, I think what it was, Wednesday night we had like a lot of, I don't want to say false sense of hope because I guess it was, but there was reason to be optimistic. I mean, as
It's not false. So it's the reason
Yeah.
I'll be out there.
So-
You look at the way the game went. I'm trying to see if I get the box score. I don't know, the box score is not coming up.
Well, so
Give
what
me a
I'll say
second.
is we had, 3 things that really made us optimistic, really had our heads held up. One, as we reiterated several times, the home field advantage. It does make a difference, I think. Obviously not decisive as proven by the end result, but it makes a difference. 2, the heck of a comeback the night before on Tuesday. I mean, it was 6-1 in the second. The final score was 9-6, an 8-run swing, thanks to Judge being, I don't know, possessed during the home season, postseason, and then all of a sudden, getting a killer 3-run homer that night. So that was just great. That was probably, I
Yeah.
know people say this a lot. That was probably the best comeback I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But there's that. So those 2 factors, and also Cam Schlittler, because
He did pitch a good game.
he did pitch a good game. He really did. And it's like, I'm glad to say this because a lot of times sports fans, when there's a loss, they just, no one, if they go scorched earth, no one goes, unfettered, for lack of a better term. It wasn't his fault. He did what he could.
Yeah.
And he's, like I said, that's another example of having great
he did what he
prospects.
could. Then you have,
I mean-
I'm just gonna point out, you have Bellinger go. You have Grisham at leadoff go 0 for 5, and you have Bellinger at 3 go 0 for 5,
What-
and Chisholm go 0 for 3.
Well,
Those are
Chisholm also made
guys.
a couple serious errors in the
Yeah.
outfield.
Those are supposed to be the guys you count on, and I'm not knocking them. They're great players. But in an elimination game to go 0 for 5, and when you're hitting leadoff and you're hitting third to go 0 for 5, that kills the rest of the lineup then, because
Right.
the guys behind you have no one on, and you're putting more pressure on Aaron Judge to get a bigger hit. Or if you're in Bellinger, you're putting pressure on Stanton to get a big hit when Bellinger goes 0 for 5.
Well, yeah, one thing I want to point out, and this goes, Bellinger's an example of this, especially.
And I love Bellinger, by the way. Great ball
he's
player.
very good. He had not to talk about the Mets, but in the Subway Series back in July, he had a heck of a double play.
Yeah, that was fun. That was amazing.
That was a missile. And so
That was crazy.
but yeah, the one thing I like to say is, they have to realize, a lot of these guys, and I said this in a text to Pete using words I can't use here. Not every pitch is a homer. You don't have to, swing for the fences.
No,
And especially if it's in the final inning with 1 out already. You have to think strategically,
And now I'm going to generalize this statement. To me, this is what ruins modern day baseball and makes it less enjoyable than watching clips and highlights from, I'll go as far back as to the 80s and 90s, up until about 2000, I would say, but maybe about 2010. Even though you had the steroid era in the early 2000s and late 90s. Players now swing mostly home run or bust. Most players are trying to swing for the fences. And if they get on base doing it, you don't have a lot, I feel like, anymore contact hitters, slap ball hitters that, hit that turnout singles, hit high 3, almost 400. I don't think, I'm going to generalize. Tony Gwynn, I'm going to use him as an example because he's the greatest hitter of all time, I think. Personally, I think he's maybe the best. He had his career outside of his rookie year, never hit under 300, was the closest player to probably ever hit 400 in the modern day baseball. You're never going to see a player hit high 380s like that consistently year after year anymore.
Right. Like even Judge, who's great, he started off the season close to 400, but by the end of the regular season, I think was I want to say 330, which is still an awesome average.
330 is great. Yeah. Judge is the best hitter in the current MLB. And
Right.
there's
And
no one I think that's
he's
better.
literally my favorite player.
Yeah.
I have, Pete can attest, I have a a shirt with his number on it.
Yeah.
I was just adding that to his point that no modern day player is likely going to keep it consistent, because that's tough to do with 162 games, you know?
Yeah. And the difference is in the 80s and 90s, you had guys who didn't hit for power. They hit for contact to get on base, to hit singles and double. They didn't hit to hit a ball 450 feet.
Right. I mean, because the thing is, home runs are great. Again, as I mentioned, Judge broke the record 3 years ago, but even RBIs are good too. Like, for instance, like I remember in last week, I think it was, when they had that horrible loss where it was in the 9th inning, it was bases loaded, no outs. You get a
It was the
base
wild
hit.
card game against Boston.
Yes.
Yeah.
You get a base hit, and it's at least a 1-run game, if not a tie at that point. Because I think at the time the score was 3-1.
You have nobody out.
Like there's something like home runs are great, but RBIs are an important stat too.
Yeah.
You know?
Like Stanton came to the plate, goes down on 3 pitches, swinging for the fences instead of try to turn out a single. Just make contact with the ball. Even if you ground out or hit a double play, it's going to be 3-2 with a runner at third. Even if you hit into a double play there, you're going to get a runner at third, 3-2. All you need is one more hit and you're tie game.
Right. Because it all builds up to each other, you know?
Yeah. And that's where, like, you just hit the ball, driving a run. Even, you hit into a double play, because even if the guy hits into a double play, it would be 2 outs, but you still have a runner on the corner at third.
Yeah. And that's also something too that I think, like, I feel like I've had some people say to me, with the exception of Tuesday night, because that was an exceptionally long 3rd inning. Yeah. But I've had some people say to me, like, is it just me, or do baseball games seem quicker? And it's like a lot of these guys, they're trying to get home runs, so they pop out. And that's what it is that, makes those, 54 outs go pretty quick.
And then you have, the offensive explosion at the end of game 2, was it? The Yankees come in, they make it a close game. And then game 3, again, just an offensive explosion. I honestly thought game 3, I thought the way they exploded in game 3 and the way they came back, that they were going to come back and win the whole series. I genuinely did, because I'm like, now they're going to have all momentum because they have another game in the Bronx tomorrow.
Right.
And I guess I was wrong, but I really did think they were going to win the comeback.
Right. It certainly would have been nice. I mean, again, as I said, Schlittler, nothing wrong with him. He did his part. What I always like to say is, unfortunately, we have a horrible bullpen. And I remember, I think Pete and I were texting about this the other day. He said it's almost kind of the opposite problem with the Mets. They have rough starters, but the relief pitchers are better. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I said they killed their bullpen because their starters couldn't go more than 5 innings a game.
Right, and
that's what I was saying. That's my opinion there. I think they killed the bullpen.
Right, and again, you need a good closer. Again, I mean, there's it's less relevant now, but every Yankee fan remembers the jokes about the Devin Williams heart attack in the 9th. And so again, another one, Weaver, who apparently he's Czech too, so that makes me shamed in my nationality. No, I'm kidding, but he again, it's rough, and again. But now we're talking about good prospects, sort of somewhat transitioning a little bit, because you were talking about McLean for the Mets. I have to say, I am very interested to see what happens with Schlittler. Obviously, again, in the game against Boston last week, which it felt great to eliminate Boston, Schlittler, as far as I know, he's either tied or has the record for most Ks by a rookie in the postseason. I could be wrong though, and even again, his very first game with the Yankees back in July, Pete already knows this story, but I just think it's pretty cool.
It's a cool story.
I got to see it. My dad and I went, which made my win-loss 50-50, 1-1. 1 win, 1 loss. I could live with that, of attended games. He was coming up for the minors. So my dad and I, we were literally on the phone earlier that day. We're like, I don't know, man. I'm a little worried. We got a new pitcher here. Not a good feeling. he did great in 6 innings. Only gave up 2 runs, which again, given that that's your first major league game, is not half bad. And then Boone, in typical fashion, swaps him out for Loaizaga, who gives up that many in just 1 inning. But nevertheless, we still, as I mentioned, won that game 9-6. So, I'll take it. But all that's to say is Schlittler is a good prospect. I like him.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to be a really good pitcher in the MLB.
Mhm.
I think he's going to be not one of the top, but he's going to be a really good middle. I feel like he does have ace potential, but I also feel like, when you have Cole and Rodon signed, he could be a really good third, because I feel like
Right, because Cole's going to be back.
not
next year.
Rodon. I meant Cole and Max Fried. You have Cole and Max Fried. He could be a really good third, and then I know you're paying Rodon big bucks. This is why I flipped their name. I was going to say, even though you're paying Rodon big bucks, putting Rodon as a 4th starter, that's a really good 4-headed pitching. And then Luis Gill's not bad as a 5 either.
Yeah, Tyler's distant cousin.
Yeah, so that's baseball. I mean, there's not much to talk about on the Mets front. They didn't make the playoffs. We talked about the big news last week, all their moves. Once November starts and free agency begins, we'll start bringing back the Mets and baseball in general. Now, the last thing I want to bring up.
Hey, just really quick. I said this to Pete, and I mean this. As sucky as it was for Wednesday night, I'll take that over another game 5. I'm like, let's just end it now.
Yeah. So I want to go to Thursday or Wednesday night. No, Tuesday night first. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's Tuesday night.
Oh,
so
the Rangers.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about both Ranger games. So
Okay.
That's why I segment. Let me put box score. Perfect. So Tuesday night, puck dropped on the new hockey season. First game we got was actually a really good game between Florida and Chicago. 3-2 the final. Chicago, Chicago starting Spencer Knight, who got his career start in Florida. It didn't really work out. He had a lot of issues, like mental health issues going on, took a lot of time off. But he seems, and I'm really glad, because he was supposed to be a really good goalie prospect. I remember he was so hyped up. Looks like he's going on the right path now, and he's going to be able to be NHL starter, say he's an NHL starter. Played well, only conceded 3 goals, but Florida Florida's 2-0. They look, just without, and this is without Matthew Tkachuk and captain Alexander Barkov. They look just as dominant anyway. So it's proving that it's the system they play, not necessarily the players. It's this. They just looked so dominant and so in control of both of those games.
Right.
That it's like, I know it's only 2 games in, but they look like they're going to be the best team in the league again based off those 2 games.
Well, yeah,
Barring
they're the returning champs, right?
back to back.
Yeah, so they have that incumbent advantage. We talked about home field advantage. I think there's something to be said for that too.
Yeah, you won 2 games. Now we'll go to the Ranger game. Actually, no, we'll talk about LA first, because the Ranger game we're getting in depth on. So then you had at 10 p.m. as part of this was all part of ESPN's triple header coverage. You had Colorado and LA, and LA did something really funny here. They come out of warmups wearing their normal home jerseys, and then they come out for the game for game time. They debuted a brand new alternate jersey that no one knew was even coming, which I find kind of funny. Although the helmets suck, the silver helmets are terrible. Colorado though wins the game 4-1 off 3-goal third period. Nathan McKinnon continues to be, I think, best player in the game. Got 2 points in that game. I know McDavid's there. I honestly think McKinnon is equally, if not slightly better. And he's on a team that doesn't have a number 2 center as well as Draisaitl does, and he's putting up equal, if not better, points as well. LA, I believe, is 0-2, I want to say, or 0-1-1. Going because they just wrapped up. They had an overtime loss the next day against Vegas. Oh no, they actually won that game. Sorry, they won that game, so they're 1-1. They lost, beating Vegas in overtime, and now we'll go into Tuesday's Ranger game first. So Tuesday night, puck drop, centennial season, 100th anniversary for the New York Rangers. And they they come out as flat as you could be. They get shut out by Arthur Sheloves, who's not very good, to be quite frank with everybody. He's not very good. And the Rangers made him look really good on Tuesday night. No, they didn't really they didn't do anything on the power play. The power play, this is what trading Chris Kreider was probably one of the biggest mistakes they're gonna make. Power play looked pedestrian without him in net front. You had they're trying to get these chances up front, look home for a redirect, but there's nobody there to redirect the puck. So what are you doing? And then you have Matt Rempe, who, Matt Rempe on the second power play unit. That's not, smart. You get shut out. Igor, 2 of the goals came off the empty net. So Igor only allows 1 goal. And the biggest surprise to me for this game was how well the third line with rookie center Noah Laba played. Making his NHL debut, playing probably as the best line on the team in a 3-0 loss, generated a lot of shots, a lot of turnovers. Mika Zibanejad had 7 shots on goal. He hasn't scored a goal yet, but he played in the first 2 games. But he's playing really. He looks, he's getting chances and he's playing really well. There's not really much to add for that game, so we'll go. Give me a second here to pull it up. We'll go to
the more prosperous of the 2.
Yeah, we'll go to last night's game against Buffalo. So last night, Rangers win 4-0 against Buffalo. They score early in the first. It was Alexis Lafreniere with his first of the season from Trocheck and Panarin at 11 minutes into the first period. And that would stay until 14 minutes into second period. Or third period, actually. They would stay scoreless in the second. Rangers would play a very sloppy second and then come back to life a little bit and play really well in the third. Carson Soucy, who, defenseman, arguably one of the worst on the roster. Surprisingly, I'm very surprised he's still around. Played terribly last year for us. Scores a goal, assisted by Will Borgen, his defense partner, and JT Miller, who had a 2-point night. And then 3 minutes later, JT Miller scores a goal. At 17 minutes in the period, JT Miller, his first of the season, the captain. Shout out Captain Miller. Alexis Lafreniere with the primary assist. And then Adam Fox ices the game with an empty net goal. And this is something I want to shout out with Adam Fox. Every goal he scores, he donates $1,023 ALS research.
Very admirable. I actually have a family friend who has ALS, so I can definitely appreciate
every
that.
point he registers, whether it's a goal, primary, or secondary assist, as long as he registers a point, he donates $1,023 to research, which is amazing. Igor Sirkin comes in, going right back into the game. Igor comes in with a shutout, facing 37 shots, stopping them all. Rangers put up 33. But this is a game they had to win. In the fact of, it's going to wreck the season starting 0-2. A lot of hockey teams start 0-2 and then go to make the playoffs. It's a long season. It was a game they had to win in the sense that Buffalo was very shorthanded, and it would have looked really bad on you if you not starting 0-2, but starting 0-2 against 2 bad teams such as Pittsburgh and Buffalo. Like I said, a lot of teams, started 0-2. The Rangers did it 2022, I believe, and then they went all the way to the conference finals. They started 0-2, but they losing a game to Washington and Colorado, I believe, or Dallas. 2 good teams at the time. 2 playoff teams as well. And then they went on to make the Eastern Conference Finals, even though they lost to Tampa Bay. So it's not necessarily a death sentence in the NHL if you start your year 0-2. But it wouldn't have looked the best for New York, for the Rangers here.
It wouldn't have been a good footing.
It wouldn't have been a good footing with the fan base. You would have had the fan base questioning, is this team going to be good or not? You lose to Pittsburgh, who also isn't the best roster anymore. I know you still have Crosby, Malkin, Letang still there. If you were to lose to a Buffalo team that's missing their top guys, they're missing 3 of their top players, not a good look. Then, like I said, so winning and shutting them out is huge. A 4-0 win was good. Next Ranger game, I believe it's tomorrow night. Yes, tomorrow night at Pittsburgh now, 7 p.m. And then after that, I believe it's a Monday night showdown with Washington. So now that we're going to Pittsburgh, they're gonna play in Pittsburgh now. I don't think this is Pittsburgh. No, this is not Pittsburgh's home opener, but it would be nice, to get revenge and win the game in their barn. Really, really quick before we wrap up. Just want to highlight the Islanders and Devils games last night. Just mention them really quick. The Devils played Carolina. They lost 6-3 in the most Devils way possible. They go up. They're up 2-1 in the third, and then they collapse in the third, giving up 4 goals. Or actually tied 2-2 in the third. And then going into the third, you give up 4 goals, losing 6-3. And I wanted to mention the Hurricanes, former Ranger Keandre Miller, who they traded for in the offseason, scores 2 goals in the game, which is nice. Good for him. I know he's on arrival, but no hard feelings. I love Keandre Miller. I think, the Rangers just misutilized him, honestly. I don't think he was used the right way. And that's really all I have to say about the Devils. And then really, really quickly, because we got to wrap up in like 2 minutes, the New York Islanders also starting 0-1 with a 4-3 loss to Pittsburgh. Rookie number 1 pick Matthew Schaefer, though, first point on Jonathan Drouin's first goal as a New York Islander is also Matthew Schaefer's first career point, which is nice to see. Number 1 overall pick getting point in his debut. That's great. I know they lost. Pittsburgh, surprisingly, now advances to 2-0. Not many teams thought they would be that well. That's all I got. Thank you guys for tuning in. Anything you want to add?
Well, I just want to thank Pete for having me. He and his show are both great. I had a really good time today. I thought this was a really good discussion. I enjoyed it. Yeah, one last thing I'd just like to say is, of what was everything.
All right. Thank you, Tyler. He's behind the scenes. He's going to end us off now.
Yeah. That was a really